And now I'm going to be telling you about how my parents met and married. My parents met on a blind date. My father, Gaetano Sinacori, was working at Cardinal Shoe in Lawrence, Massachusetts, while my mother was working right down the street at Lawrence Maid, also in Lawrence, Massachusetts, in the year of 1977. A married couple named Rose and I believe Frank Ventrilo knew my parents. Rose knew my mom, I believe, because she did electrolysis on my mom. And I believe Frank knew my dad through Cardinal Shoe, I think it was. Each of them knew one of them. So they said, wow, why don't we set them up on a date? They weren't getting married, they were single. So that was the plan. So my dad, he's a lot like I am. He drove by my mother's house at 145 Howard Street early the day he was supposed to meet her. And my grandmother was out front doing something, I don't know. So he stopped by the house and he stopped the car. And knowing her, she was nosy. She's like, hi, can I help you? And he goes, oh, I'm just driving around. I have a date tonight with the woman that lives at 145 Howard Street. So my grandmother goes, oh, you're that guy. So then my dad had left, and then my grandmother went to see my mom in the house, and she goes, I met the guy. And my mom goes, you met the guy? And she goes, yeah, the guy who's going to meet you tonight and go out with you. And she goes, that's weird. She goes, yeah, he drove by to see where the place was. Oh, okay, she goes. So they met. It was the beginning of July, I believe, of 1977. And he picked her up and he took her to, I believe, Salisbury Beach. And I don't know, they went to the center. I think that's where they went. And then my mother's cousins, the Colettis, lived in Seabrook in the summer. They had a cottage there. So my mom goes, oh, let's go visit my cousins, Anthony and Jane Coletti, and my Aunt Jenny and the family they had. So they did that, and that was their first date. Then my dad, I believe, picked her up. That was a Friday night, I believe. And then I think that Sunday, he picked her up, and where did he take her? To his parents' house. He goes, I was thinking I'm going to meet my parents. So as he drove by, they were outside, I believe, under the grapevine, shucking corn or something. I don't know. They were just doing something under the grapevine. That's what they love to do in the summer months. Sit outside under the grapevine, I don't know, cutting up beans or something. I don't know. Something to do with garden. My grandfather my Nono Vito's garden, somehow. They were doing something under the grapevine with that. So then my grandmother goes, oh, hi, come into the house. Well, I'll make you guys hamburgers. So they went to the house, and my mom met my dad's youngest sister, Pierta, and she was all giggly. She was all just hee, hee, hee. She was the baby of the family. And I think she was about 16 or 17, about 16. She was getting to the end of high school at the time. And then I think she met my Aunt Pina. And then my grandmother said next week or in a few weeks, my Aunt Pina was getting married. You're all invited to the wedding. And my mom goes, oh my gosh, I hardly know you guys. So my grandmother goes, no, don't worry. We're a big Italian family. We love big weddings. So my mom and my Nana and Nanu all got invited to my Aunt Pina's wedding. I think it was a week or so later. And it was at the Rendezvous in Methuen on Merrimack Street. And we have video of my mom at the table sitting down, and she's giving a shrewd look towards somebody. And it was my dad, because he was dancing with his partner that walked down the aisle with him, Angela Lamparelli. So she was like, oh no, he's going to go out with her now. But he danced with her at the wedding. He goes, oh, Rosemary, let's dance. So, and then they dated throughout 1977. And on December 24th, Christmas Eve, he proposed to her. And they were married on June 4th, 1978 at Holy Rosary Church in Lawrence, Massachusetts by Father DiMatteo. The bride was my mom, Rosemary Angela Sinacori. The groom was my dad, Gaetano Sinacori. The best man was Robert Doobie. The maid of honor was Vita Sinacori. The bridesmaids were Maria Bruno, Jane Coletti, Joanne Doobie, and Pina Archer. And ushers were Joseph Fiorellini, John Archer, Anthony Coletti, and Richard Bruno. Ring bearer was Anthony Bruno, and flower girl was Jennifer Bruno. As you can see, my parents kept it in the family. My mom only wanted my Aunt Vita. She goes, I just want a maid of honor. That's it. I don't care about bridesmaids. But my dad goes, I want all my sisters in the wedding. So my mom goes, all right, fine. I'll have bridesmaids. I'll have two of my cousins, Jane and Maria, and I'll have your oldest sisters, Pina and Joanne. That's it. And Pierre can do the guest book, his youngest sister. And my dad goes, that's okay. And then my dad shows two of my mom's cousins, Anthony Coletti and Richard Bruno, and then two of his brother-in-laws. Well, the two of them were, Anthony and Richard were ushers, and then one of his brother-in-laws was an usher, John Archer, and then his best man was Robert Doobie, his brother-in-law. And then the flower girl and the ring bearer were Richard and Maria Bruno's kids, Anthony and Jennifer. So that's basically it on how my parents met and got married. And then they honeymooned in Canada. They drove to Canada, Niagara Falls, and they stayed with relatives of my dad's. So that's the story of how my parents met and married.